All right. Hi, Felipe. Can you hear me? Excellent. Hi, Felipe. Good to see you. Good to see you. We're starting in a few seconds. Thank you so much, Felipe. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to our Collaborative Medicine Symposium here at Dresden Medical Faculty. My name is Timo Siebmann. I'm a neurologist at the Department of Neurology at Carl Gustav Karus University Hospital, managing director of the Reformed Medical Degree Program MEDIC, and site director of the Principles and Practice of Clinical Research course provided by Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Today is a wonderful day because today we are bringing a group of fantastic people together to discuss the single most important thing in academic medicine: collaboration. So when people from different countries, from different backgrounds, from different professions are working together to really make a difference in the way we treat our patients, the way we educate our students, and the way we do research together, then, ladies and gentlemen, true innovation can happen. And today I'm very proud to welcome esteemed faculty hosts and guest faculty speakers from the universities Harvard and Dresden who have already made such a difference. Inspiring leaders who created true innovation in healthcare, research, and education. And most of all, a group of people who have the ability to inspire others, like ourselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, our faculty hosts today are Professor Michael Albrecht, CEO and speaker of Carl Gustav Karus University Hospital, president of the German Association of University Hospitals, founder and godfather of the Reformed Medical Degree Program, and also the creator and initiator of the Harvard Alliance Dresden Faculty Program. Professor Heinz Reichmann, Dean of the Medical School, Carl Gustav Karus, Director of the Department of Neurology, and also a creator and pioneer of a modern Reformed Medical Faculty in Dresden, international leader in clinical neurology. Mr. Frank Ohi, CEO of Carl Gustav Karus University Hospital, inspiring leader in the field of healthcare economics. We also have amazing guest faculty speakers, and two of them came all the way from Boston to Dresden to be with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Tom Aritz, the Medical Executive Director of Mass General Brigham Global Advisory, Associate Professor in Pathology at Harvard Medical School, and a global leader in faculty development and healthcare innovation. Professor Tracy Wallbrink, co-director at Open Pediatrics, Associate Professor at Harvard Medical School in Anesthesia, and Senior Research and Clinical Associate in Critical Care Medicine at Boston Children's Hospital, and also a rising star and an accomplished leader in the field of pediatric healthcare and education. And then connected with us virtually from his living room, Professor Philippe Fregni, who is a professor in epidemiology at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, a professor in neurology, and a professor in physical medicine and rehabilitation at Harvard Medical School, the director of Spaulding Neuromodulation Center, and also the program director of Harvard's Principles and Practice of Clinical Research, and Professor Lutz Miro, the director of the surgery department at Chemnitz Hospital, the medical director of our MEDIC program, and also the site director of the PPCR course in Chemnitz. So, taken together, a great group, of friends, partners, really inspiring people coming together to discuss collaboration. So, thank you so much for coming. And without further ado, I'd like to pass the word on to our leader, our visionary, our CEO for 20 years. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Professor Michael Albrecht.
Thank you, Mr. Simon.
You're welcome.
You get an introduction like that on your last day of your life normally, yeah? Not within a symposium we have like here. So I want to give you a cordially welcome. At first, our partners and friends, Tracy, Tom, Felipe, which is on the online and the screen I see, and of course to all our faculty members and co-workers within the hospital. I really like it that we have this symposium. On the other hand, it's a title, it could mean everything and nothing. Yeah? Collaborative medicine is, what does that mean? What does it mean? And I think at the starting point of this symposium, I just should give you a short impression what we did during the last 25 years and how it came that we are working together as we work. And Tom, you are one of my oldest international friends, not old by age, but by time we're working together. So at the end of the 19th, about 96, 97, we talked about that yesterday evening, I became acquainted to you, Elizabeth Armstrong, Gordon Moore, which were the people who were responsible for curricula within medical faculty development programs all over the world. And they have been to Munich. I was there because I'm very curious. Yeah? So I wanted to have a look, what does that mean? What are they doing in Munich? Because we wanted to become a little bit more noticed within Germany or international even. And I've been there and I saw it and I told you, hey, could you come to Dresden, please? And to be really honest, I think you didn't even exactly know where Dresden is. It was, at that time, Dresden was not known within the scene of university hospitals. We just were on the start. This medical faculty was founded again in '93, and nobody in Germany really exactly knew what we were doing there. We really had lovely co-workers. They were one of the most more eager people within the hospital here to work on new things, to have some innovation, to make things work better than before, which were very well connected to their patients and between each other, and they wanted to make new things. So it was really easy to make a change program, what we did at that time, but it would not work. Once we were there and said, okay, we wanted to make work like that because nobody would believe us. So the only thing we could do to have these famous people from the Harvard Medical School just to tell them, hey, it's quite good what the ideas are. We will look at that. We will control quality. We will control the development program. And so we had a program which worked for some years, not only to develop a new curriculum within the Dresden Medical School, but to have a faculty development program, which does mean what it means. We had to bring the people from this point to the other point, to change views, to think in a new way. And we have a lot of people which were part, or who were part at that time within the program. Still remember, every day we had in Boston, or we had over here, we had a lot of meetings, we had a lot of workshops. There was a program where we sent about 10 people at one time to Boston, and they had a 1 week, I call it brainwash program, yeah, where they got new ideas, and the best point was they sat together there. And we looked at the groups, we put them together, and it was some sense what we did within the groups, and most of them, Heinz, you remember that too, it was really amazing time. This one short week, coming back and tell here the people, hey, what I've learned there, and what we could do the next day on. We changed it and we did it. So I think this was one of the real things which happened in faculty and university hospital, just to grow up, just to get some mass, some size at the end, and to be recognized within Germany and within the whole German hospital. So that at the end, I was the the president of this association of all German hospitals. It was a reputation we all together got here in Dresden. So I think it was really one of the most exciting times for me and for most of our co-workers, for my friends and all the people working here at that site. So it's gone. That was history. We had a profit from that. We made a lot of thanks to our friends and partners in Harvard. But it's like it always is. Once you don't change again, you will die. Grow or die. Change or die. So we decided just to make new programs, to make the old programs work better within the present time. And so we looked what are the problems within the region we are working in. The University Hospital here, we are responsible for that. We are doing that, but what is the problem of a region as Chemnitz is, which is just an example for a typical Saxony region with all the problems of old patients, demography problem they have, and the problem to get really good new people into the system, new physicians, new people working at the bed of the patient, and all kinds of profession, not only physician or any other type of academic educational programs of leaders or workers within the healthcare system. So once you look at that, we thought it might be just to come back to the region of Boston, because you had the experience 15 years ago, 20 years ago even, where you were forced to make a network of healthcare providers, which are primary care providers, which are hospitals, which are people working at the patient at home care and all that things, which is really not the topic we have here in Germany all over at the moment. So we thought it would be really a good program, always remembering how successful our co-working was at the beginning of the 2000 years, that we thought it would be fine just to meet each other, just to present you what we are doing at the moment, what are the problems within at the moment, and just to think about what can we do together in the near future. We have installed a program. Miro is sitting there responsible for our place we have in Chemnitz, and it's Chemnitz because this is a region which has much more problems, all the things I just mentioned, and is one of the best hospitals we have in Saxony, is one of the biggest hospitals, nearly as big as we are. It's a maximum provider for the Saxonian people. And we thought it would be quite good just to go out with our education program at that city, install the program there, because once we think over that here and want to solve the problems of your region, at the end we have to force people then to work there. And this is very, very difficult. It's just better to teach them at the point where the problem is, and this is there. And not only in Chemnitz, it's all the hospitals all around you. And we learned a lot during the last 1.5 years with the COVID problem, because there you could see why our system is nearly collapsing or is not working very well, because there are no structures concerning the cooperation or the programs we have within all these providers. So at the end, I think we want to go a big step again. This will be not a step within our own academic field here in Dresden. I think we're quite good installed, but it should be a step which we want to have in the region, which is very, very difficult to do. At first we started that idea 5 years ago, Nobody wanted to do that. Nobody. Not our own faculty, not our government, not the people in Chemnitz, not the governor in Chemnitz, whatever. All thought, oh, we had to do more. It will cost a lot of money. Why should it work? Now just let it go. Don't do it. It was a hard work. Siepmann was one of the guys working together, getting the money to start the program, bringing the people which are necessary in that direction. I think it was a good thing. We had the first students last year during Corona. We started with Corona with the first students in Chemnitz, really difficult step. And now they're the second generation of students just starting in Chemnitz. And this is just one of the parts for an infrastructure program we have to install. And my vision is that the things you did, of course, in really other size than we do it, between Brickhams or Mass General or other hospitals within the region, 4,000 co-workers within that region, just to make a healthcare system network working together to bring up a better supply for the patients. That very small, of course, Saxonian-styled, between Dresden and Chemnitz, just to get a better future for the people living here. Very old people in the future, very a high number of chronic disease people. And the impression is that we could be a thing which others want to copy afterwards once we bring it to work together. So I hope we could manage that. I'm convinced we can. And I will do everything to help this thing starting to work. And Miro, Siepmann, and all these younger generations in our two hospitals, they are responsible to make it work. This would be my vision. And we were just looking and discussing how could there be some help, how could be some advice, how could be there some control out of this partner institution we have, just looking at our old and new friends. So I'm very happy that we have this symposium this afternoon. I hope you get some inspiration and some motivation, and all the younger guys of you, I really ask you just to work together, come into this program, do everything that it works, and do not show that it cannot work, because that's not the thing we want to hear. Okay, I wish you a good afternoon. We will have some discussions together, and I'm very happy and proud that you're here. Welcome again.
Thank you so much, Professor Albrecht. And without further ado, I'd like to give the word to our Dean of Medical Faculty Dresden. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Professor Heinz Reichmann.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your kind introduction. There is such a difference between an old neurological brain and a young one. You had all these affiliations, all the superb accomplishments of our CEO and others in mind. For me, it's much more difficult. So I keep it short. A heartily welcome on behalf of the medical faculty, Carl Gustav Karus here in Dresden, to our distinguished guests and friends from Harvard, from Cambridge, from Boston. It is Professors Wallbrink, I see here Professor Fregny, and especially Tom Aritz, because he was the one who inspired us in the medical faculty a lot, and we know him, as Michael has mentioned, for many, many years. I looked it up. The first time I had the honor to join you in Boston was 2004, and this lasted until 2014. And in Germany, we have a saying, you always meet twice. So today we are together again, and it is amazing. There seems to be no interval between the two occasions that we met. And for the faculty, and this is my job, I talk about faculty accomplishments. I'm very grateful to you, to your whole colleagues from Harvard, because we have adopted a lot from Harvard. When we started, we were poor. We had no scientific laboratories available, so we decided we should start with excellent teaching. And we started with the problem-oriented teaching, which was very familiar in Harvard already. And we have almost overdone it, because then everything had to be problem-oriented teaching. And then we accomplished a little bit. And the second thing I learned from you, and this was also extremely helpful for our administration at the medical faculty, this is how to deal with third-party funding. We met somebody, I forgot her name, in psychiatry, and she was such an amazing personality, and she gave us so good advice. And by now, I think it's fair to say that even the medical faculty has a good administration towards third-party funding. So I am also very happy that you're here. I expect to learn a lot, to get some ideas, some vision from your side. And so without any further ado, I think it is great that we may expand this to Chemnitz. And this brings me back to my mention twice alive. In the first period, we became a Reform Fakultät. And now we have a Reform Studiengang. They speak so well German, so I can keep it in the German phrase. And I think in both instances, we dared to do something new. And it's always good to have critical and sympathetic friends who overlook that, what we do. And I have a good feeling, and I think we do it right. And Chemnitz is a great opportunity. You should believe in it. I will maybe step aside a little bit, but I will always fight for that. And I think that's a great occasion, and well, we have just to accomplish. Now, I think our excellent moderator, Dr. Siebmann, will now announce all our distinguished guests. And I also wish you a very fruitful, interesting afternoon. Thank you for listening. Okay. Achso, wer nimmt das? Lass ich dran.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Albrecht and Professor Reichmann, for your warm words of welcome, really your opening speeches. And now it's my great pleasure to give you, you said it actually, Professor Reichmann, the man who brought Boston and Dresden closer together as partners, and also the man, you know, whose projects united institutions and hospitals around the globe. The title of the next speech is International, I can memorize titles and also academic titles, but also titles of speeches. And it's the spectrum of international collaboration in healthcare and medical education. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Tom Aretz.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me up there? There's an old saying that distance learning starts in the second row, so I just want to make sure that you can hear me. Okay. Well, my topic is first of all, I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. It's really great to be back in Dresden. I really missed it. We spent a lot of time here. I used to come here at least twice, if not 3 times a year. Made a lot of good friends here and have really great fond memories. And I'm looking forward to rekindling the relationship and continuing. So the title of my talk is The Spectrum of International Collaboration in Medical Education and Healthcare. So next slide, please. So the outline is I'm going to talk about the spectrum of countries, because I think that's important when we talk about international collaboration. The spectrum of engagements, because they're quite different. The spectrum of services and efforts, what do we actually do together internationally? And then I'll share with a little bit our own experience, because I've been doing this for 25 years, and then end with some lessons learned. Next slide, please. So several years ago, my colleague, Bob Krohn, an anesthesiologist, published a paper in academic medicine where he was looking at sort of what was happening in the world in terms of academic collaborations. And he divided the world into least developed countries, emerging economies, and OECD countries. And the interesting thing is that the vast majority of people, at that time at least, were living in the emerging economies. So a lot of our work based on this was actually done in the emerging economies. And and we sort of started then dividing things as we were focusing on healthcare, not just education, into countries that were pre-growth, where nothing has really happened in healthcare. There were early cycle, there were some beginnings for 5 years, then there was mid-cycle, 5 to 15 years, and then, finally they had done a lot of work in establishing healthcare for quite a few years. This is necessary because you really have to sort of target your collaboration to what the needs are in the various countries. So the issues across that spectrum are what I call global health versus international health. When we think about global health, we typically think about working in an underdeveloped country, a more developed country, doing some sort of philanthropic work very often in underdeveloped countries. International health is really much more working in trying to create a different structure, very often not necessarily with the public sector, but often with the private sector, which is the second point. Because what we very often forget is that in many countries, like India or Vietnam for that matter, or Pakistan, that the middle class is growing very, very rapidly. You take a look at India, India's middle class is about as much as the entire population of the United States. So that's a population that, quite frankly, we looked at because we wanted to distinguish ourselves from global health. We wanted to do more international health type of work. So we worked a lot with private institutions, or in recent years with what are called PPPs, public-private partnerships. Then the funding sources are quite different. A lot of our funding sources were private. There was some public funding, and then when you work in global health, very often it's philanthropy or it's grants. Workforce issues are huge if you work in different countries. That's really a significant issue. So as you walk into these collaborations, you have to have a clear understanding of what the resources are in those countries, because it really determines what can and cannot be accomplished. And the regulatory environments are quite different. Some of them are very immature, and some of them are quite mature. So the next slide. So if you look at the spectrum of engagements, and on the top there are academic engagements, on the bottom are healthcare education. So some institutions just get their feet wet by doing some exchanges. They might do some education elsewhere. They take foreign patients, clearly, and in recent years, a lot more telemedicine. Then you would have some research collaborations. On the healthcare side, also some research collaborations, some philanthropic grants. On the academic side, there are curriculum sales. People actually sell their curriculum. They consult, or they move into long-term collaborations, which is what we did in Dresden, for instance, 20-some odd years ago. And interestingly enough, there are now developments of joint degrees and even ownership or satellite campuses. So it's a really wide spectrum of collaboration. So when we talk about international collaboration, it's really quite different. And on the healthcare side, again, there's consulting, there's long-term collaborations. Some people operate and manage. There are joint ventures. For instance, Johns Hopkins International has a joint venture with Aramco in Saudi Arabia to create their primary care system. And there's ownership in branches. The Cleveland Clinic right now has a hospital in Abu Dhabi. They're about to open something in London. Mayo Clinic will have a place in London. So it's interesting what's happening in the world, but this is a huge spectrum. And as you can imagine, the resources required are quite different. So when we talk about international collaboration, it really is quite different. Next slide. So if you look at, so obviously the risks increase dramatically, the efforts have to increase dramatically, but also, yes, that's what people are looking for, the return on investment, because to be honest with you, a lot of these collaborations, at least from the Western academic medical centers, are driven by the fact that it provides a new source of income. The next slide. So this is just a snapshot several years ago from a paper that was written by Johns Hopkins International, and they looked at, what the U.S. landscape was, and they looked at all the people that were involved in this. And as you can see, there's again that escalation of complexity, of risk and resource needs, and as it says on the right side, the possible return on investment. I won't go into detail because I covered most of it on the previous slide, but Partners Harvard Medical International was our previous name, so that sort of was us in that particular spectrum. Next slide. So what are the typical services or the typical collaboration areas that actually happen during these collaborations? A lot of work is done on both the academic and the healthcare side in defining people's mission, their vision, and their strategy. Was it Henry Kissinger, I think, once said that if you don't know where you're going, any way will get you there, right? Which is just a great statement. So, understanding, having an understanding between the two parties where you are headed to align is extremely important. A lot of issues in academia and in hospitals really reside in governance and policies. So there's a lot of governance and policy work. And then there's the academic program development and the clinical program development that we typically think about. And most of the time, and that was true for certainly our work in Dresden and other places, there is an enormous need for, or an enormous, one of the major components is really doing a leadership and faculty or staff development program. And then there's the nuts and bolts, teaching people certain pedagogical things such as problem-based learning or devising clinical pathways. Facilities development very often happens. And then we have to look at the IT side of things. And then there are ways of communicating remotely in recent years. And then always quality management is one of the areas. So these are huge efforts that go into these collaborations, particularly if you're trying to create new institutions, as much of the work that we've done in recent years. So the next slide just gives you an idea what that meant for Johns Hopkins. So this slide looks at 3 years that for Johns Hopkins, 2013 to 2015, and sort of looking at the hours it took for physicians, nursing, and administrative personnel to support their collaborative efforts internationally. And you can see it's about 12.5 FTEs. So it's not, in other words, it's 12.5 people, the equivalent of 12.5 people. And the next slide also shows that the type of interaction changes dramatically. And I just want to point particularly to the right side of that slide where you see the joint venture here. Johns Hopkins entered into a joint venture, as I mentioned, with Aramco, and dramatically increased the amount of effort they put in. So again, collaborations, it's a very distinct differences that the institutions that enter into collaborations have to be ready to meet. And there are some spectacular failures in the world along these lines. There have been some incredibly bad failures in collaborations because people weren't ready to put the appropriate resources into their collaborations. Next slide. So this is us. I've had the pleasure now of working in this field for 25 years. We've worked in over 40 countries, and there was a huge spectrum of that we did. And the next slide shows you sort of what the kind of projects were. Student exchanges, faculty, staff, and leadership courses, curriculum and clinical program reform, quality management, accreditation, greenfield hospitals and universities, new hospitals and universities. We developed regulatory frameworks, we did strategic consulting, and we did health systems consulting. So as Michael Albrecht once told me, if you tell somebody that you can do everything, nobody will believe you, right? And that's true, because I don't think you can do everything for everybody. And we had a whole host of different partners. We had academic and clinical departments, universities and hospitals, worked with healthcare systems, governments, not-for-profits. In recent years, real estate developers, in China in particular, real estate developers wanted to get into the healthcare business. So we worked with real estate developers, venture capitalists, another thing that we did in China to work with them. Corporations. We're now working with a corporation that's in waste management that are about to build a hospital. It's an interesting approach when you think about it. I mean, what does a waste management company know about building a hospital? And it's kind of interesting because their slogan is that we don't pick up your trash, we keep your city clean. So they basically want to approach healthcare in the same way. They said, we don't treat the sick, we're going to keep you healthy. Right? So it's kind of interesting, you know. But anyway, I'll tell you in 5 years how it went. But we'll see. And then we've worked with consulting firms. Okay, the next slide. And this is what we're focusing on now. We've worked basically focusing on healthcare, and I won't go into detail on this slide, but we have focused down. I've taken Michael's advice, and we are not doing everything for everybody anymore. So the next slide is how we work. And I just want to briefly mention that we made the decision to not own or operate anything. And the reason for that is that we feel strongly that that we don't want to expand our campus, that our work is to work with our partners to help make them be stronger rather than us creating a clone of ourselves. To be blunt with you, we can barely manage our own system. Why on earth would we want to manage something 3,000 or 4,000 miles away? Right? So that's why we made that particular decision. And it's been very gratifying, to be honest with you. So the next slide, I'll skip that slide, the next. So what are the risks and rewards of working internationally? Reputation is a risk and a reward. If you do badly, you know, your reputation goes downhill. If you do well, your reputation goes up. Financially, you can lose money or you can make money, let's be honest here. Geopolitical is a real risk in recent years. You can't control the geopolitical climate. The inability to deliver, as I mentioned, failure. It's a real risk. Faculty recruitment, can you get people to do the work? Quality issues. Somebody said it distracts you from what you should be doing locally. Right? I mean, we have enough problems locally. Why are you working at a distance? And then somebody said you're training the competition. And it's very interesting to me because one of our first partner in Germany was Munich, and they started what's now known as MMI, Munich Medical International. And you know, but that's okay. I think the sincerest, you know, trying to be like it's the sincerest form of flattery. You know, it's actually okay. But the rewards, the faculty satisfaction and career opportunities, to me, has always been the most important thing. When you're working together, do both parties have abilities for faculties or staff to improve their careers? Obviously, quality improvement, improved health and education clearly is the ultimate thing that you're going for. And hopefully you create greater access to healthcare and education. So, last slide, next slide. What are the lessons learned? Well, align expectations and negotiate in good faith is what we've learned. In other words, make sure that you both have the same goals, or that at least your goals are aligned enough. The second thing is manage the relationship. Relationships, as most marriages, most people that are married or in a long-term relationship know, you know, do not sort of stay, you know, there's a line from a Woody Allen movie that relationships are like sharks. Unless they move forward, they die. So it's you know, relationships, managing relationships is difficult because in all your collaborations you will have disappointment and you will have difficult periods. Gain trust and cultivate it. Trust is absolutely important. Create self-enforcing contracts so that you don't have to negotiate every 2 to 3 years. This is very important because there's now literature that has looked at this. Avoid neocolonialism, right? Be humble and culturally appropriate. And as somebody told me, listen, don't judge. And that's critical in international collaborations. Involve all stakeholders. Make your partner's success the priority, as I said before, including career opportunities. Share information and communicate. Focus on innovation, not selling what you have. Train your faculty. Expertise is not enough. Document and publish. Don't work to travel, travel to work. You may laugh at that, but you know, it's very enticing to be part of an international collaboration, particularly if it's in a nice place. But you have to understand you're traveling there to do some work. It's not the other way around. And then finally, have fun and enjoy the personal relationships. And those are the things, quite frankly, that I think the most rewarding of all of this. And I was really reminded on this trip, both here in Dresden as well as in Munich, where I sat down with people I hadn't seen for 10, 12 years, and it was like it never left. So those are the really satisfying pieces, ultimately, in the collaboration. So I thank you very much for your attention. Looking forward to the discussion.
So thank you so much, Tom, for that really inspiring speech. So you inspired me personally not only to further expand my international collaboration, but also to start a waste company. So thank you so much. That was a great speech. And now it's my true pleasure to welcome Professor Philippe Fregni. Philippe, when you brought the Principles and Practice of Clinical Research course to Dresden and to Germany 10 years ago, you really changed something. And you know, ever since, we were amazed by the degree to which the course, you know, the participation, the collaborative spirit really changed the research landscape in Dresden and other places as well. You inspired us to create a master's program in clinical research at Dresden International University, which is very successful. Above it all, you really inspired thousands of researchers around the globe to strive and contribute to science, Philippe. So, and also, of course, you're a great friend and you have been a great mentor for many years. So it's just wonderful to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Philippe Fregni. Sure, that's fine, Philippe. So just.
I'll just restart because I needed to.
Sure. That's fine, no problem. All right, so what are we going to talk about right now? So, Tom, I remember that you had a great joke last night. So if anyone wants to tell a joke, now would be a good time, but no pressure, Tom.
I need a couple of drinks before I just.
Oh yeah, okay. So probably the time for Felipe rebooting is not enough to serve you a couple of drinks. So let's just wait for him to reboot. Would be a good idea to do it in Dresden. But I was a first-year resident, so it's not really easy to establish something new if you're a first-year resident. But with the help of those guys, Professor Reichmann, Professor Albrecht, we did it. And Felipe is back again. So Felipe, I was trying to tell a joke in the interim, but I couldn't think of something funny, so I just kept talking, and the stage is yours.
For distance learning as well, that we always had to adapt to some small technical issues that just don't let that happen. But anyway, so let me try to explain in these next 10 minutes. So what we've been doing and what is this project about, the PPCR project that Chilo has been working with us, also with other colleagues in Dresden, Chemnitz, Munich, other places as well. So the idea is that can we create a global community of collaborative clinical research learning? So that was our goal. And let me quickly tell the motivation for that. What was our motivation? So, and I'll give one example. So as you know, before COVID and all the attention was focused on COVID, in the US, an important thing was the opioid epidemic, which has been killing thousands of people every year, every month, and has been growing. It has improved a bit, it seems that it's getting worse again, but this is an example, and if you go back to the source of the problem, it's interesting. This goes back to a simple paper published in 1985. It was the paper is not a problem. The problem is the interpretation of them. It's a series of cases showing a lot. You can use, and I'll summarize just for the interest of time. But look, you can use opioid in non-malignant pain. Okay, opioid was being used mostly in malignant pain in cases palliative care or acute setting. But then, look, you can use chronically opioids, and it does not lead to tolerance. It does not lead to dependence. But that was a report, 38 cases, and of course you can't make a strong conclusion for that. We all know this is one of the principles of the evidence-based medicine. But anyway, clinicians, the industry use this paper and use other papers as well, not only this, but this seemed to be one of the papers who feel that. And this is an example of when evidence is used in the wrong way that can cause drastic and significant problems in
YouTube streame ich hin und her.
And we know that even though the evidence has been improving, has been growing, is there enough time to really assess information accurately?
Drei ist
And
links
that's
und
the
da drauf.
problem. Again, it's not only for researchers, for clinicians. And that's the thing that I keep repeating. So this is, we need to train, we need to have better training with research for clinicians also. Okay? And again, you see, you can go a number of crises. I'll not go into that, but it's obvious that when evidence is used, you see problems. Okay? And how to enhance quality as well, clinical trial training. And again, the answer is we need better clinical training. Okay? We need more clinical training. And you can say, look, the problem when we started this project, the PPCR project, was, look, there are a number of courses in clinical research. Good courses, usually the courses are offered as a 2-3 day, 5 days, an update, it's a basics. So, but you can go any university, you can check in the US and across different departments, different countries as well. I talk about US is more of my experience. They offer clinical research courses, but it's still usually they have very limited effectiveness. Okay? Clinicians are busy, and also a short-term intervention will be of very little impact as well. So the model of the CME courses, again, people travel to Boston, they have to travel, jet lag, they come the day before, and they are 40 hours in a 5 day, 8 hours per day, 40 hours in a conference room. Again, jet lagged, tired, and plus trying to catch up with things back home. So learning is not effective, and also it's a one-time intervention. Okay, so how can we use collaborative learning as the main drive for learning? Okay, so that was our solution. Let's use collaborative learning, connect people. So that was the idea. So that's the basis of learning in PPCR, and not only a short term, but a long term, across almost a year. The program has 9 months, and that's what we started. We started as a pilot program. It was initially between, again, HMS faculty and University of São Paulo in Brazil. I'm from Brazil, and my colleagues, and again, the motivation also, how can we help my colleagues over there? Talking to me, I was at that point, I was a junior faculty and then working with other faculty at Harvard. So we developed this program. It was a pilot program. The next year it got the CME approval, the HNS, and then we moved as well because the program was a clinical research training. It made sense to be housed in the Harvard PHM School of Public Health, where that has been offered for the last 5 years. And the program has grown significantly. So we have people connecting everywhere, and we have sites in the cities. What does it mean, sites? With the pandemic, things change a little bit, but hopefully next year things will go back to normal. This year we start having sites. The sites in Chemnitz, it's active, which is wonderful. But sites, that means the students, they go to a classroom and they connect to Boston Live weekly, okay? And we connect and interact with them. It's not just for them to see a video projection there. No, we see them, we ask them, they have interaction. Of course, there's limited time in the live section, but everyone gets called 2 or 3 times during the course. There is the excitement of being called and so on. Okay? So, and that's, as you can see again on our map, we have a number of sites in Europe, a number of sites in South America. Almost all the countries we have sites there. Here in North America, Central America, a little bit as well, and we have some sites in Middle East. Africa, we have been working to get sites there. For different reasons, it has been a little bit challenging, and some sites in Asia, which with the time difference, it's not easy. Okay? And what are the numbers here of PPCR, just to give, again, it started very small. We started with about 30 participants, and it grew to 450 students per year on average. We may keep increasing these numbers, and when Timo came, I think 2011 or 12, again, those one of the first sites as well. It was the first site in Europe, and then PPCR had about 100 people and keep growing. And one thing again, we are based on collaborative learning, so that the students, they have to work together. I know again, for a number of you it's obvious, but it's important to repeat why collaborative learning is so important. It takes more time, it takes more energy, but that's the most effective way of learning, and I have no doubt of that. So the idea is to motivate their creativity and independence through activities. So it's very heavily based on activities in the course. They have big forum of discussion, they have to participate, and they have to create a product at the end. They are divided in teams. It was interesting, one thing, that the teams create identities. They give a name to the team. Some even try to design logos for their teams, and they have to create a product at the end of the course. Okay, with the product is a grant submission, and besides the grant submission, they can publish it as well as a protocol paper. And it's amazing because the quality at the end, it's and we can compare with other protocols, and you see the quality is outstanding. And what are the features here? Again, it needs to have an intentional design. It's not just it's not just a study together. They have to have a task, and they need to engage in the task for meaningful learning. And why should we use collaborative learning? Again, the whole thing of learning, as you all know, is you need to integrate new information into the existing understanding. And that's a big problem, because when someone who has been doing that for 20 years tries to teach someone who is new, the understanding of that person with the faculty, there will be a big gap between them. And that's the problem, because it will be difficult for the students to integrate with their existing understanding, to integrate in their existing network. So by them to collaborate, they help to fill these gaps. They help to interpret it in a way that's easier for them to understand. I think that's the beauty as well, and also increase attention, increase a little bit of peer pressure. So all of that helps. Okay. And again, remember as well, so our brain has been hardwired for human communication. So that's how we learn. We again, human beings, they learn across fire, across conversations, across telling stories. So, and we haven't been used that much in traditional school. So in traditional education, which a number of authors, this is not something new, it's just difficult to implement. If you read any new book of learning and teaching, you see all these concepts. But the difficult thing is how to implement that, which is not easy. Right? And again, you create this virtuous cycle of collaborative learning as the students engage more, they get more responsible, they learn more, they get more excited, then they interact more, and it creates a virtuous cycle of collaborative learning. There's a number of techniques. I'm not going to use most of that. We adapted that to the distance learning, although we have the live interaction call ourselves is a hybrid model, in which again, the idea is to create activities that they interact meaningfully, to design something, to do something. That's the most important thing. Right? And one important thing is about collaborative learning is not just telling students to do that and forget about that. I know we know that, but follow them through the process, prepare them. So in the program, the first lecture, the first week of the program is to prepare, to tell them why it is important. They need to understand why learning through their way is important. And there needs to be an agreement with the student, almost a contract with the student, a learning contract with the student. And then keep monitoring, keep engaging. One of the things that PCR also has been effective. A number of students, they come back to become teaching assistants. We have about 200 actually teaching assistants helping to monitor that. And they also can learn by being a teaching assistant. So it's a great way as well for consolidation and for helping them as well. Of course, we will be able to monitor 450 people, but with a teaching assistant, that helps. And my last slide here, I know the time is up. So is it easy? No, it's not. Again, collaborative learning involves more time and dedication. it's a lot of time. So compared to other courses that I go there, I give a lecture and I leave, that someone invites me to give a lecture. So it's 10 times easier. So that involves a constant monitoring, constant preparation. Some of the students don't like it as well. So I have many students that they even get overwhelmed at the beginning, so that's too much to explain. And the students, they come with the mindset of, look, I come here, I sign up for a course, a Harvard course. I just wanted to hear from Harvard professors. I don't want to learn with my colleagues, and they have to explain how to. So now it's becoming a little bit easier. They come, I think they know the program. Most of the students we get it, they are referred by other students. That's the main method they reach us. But again, there's always something you need to think. And again, the students are not trained to learn collaboratively. They think, I can read material myself in an easy way. That's true, but your learning will not be meaningful, will not be deep. With the conversations, interaction, that makes the learning deeper and more meaningful. And again, two more slides. So, and the second challenge for us is, we finish with PCR, how can we support this learning network? So we don't want this to be just a one-time course, they come, we wanted to keep them engaged. We know it's not easy, and we, of course, we know limitations, but we try to do as best as we can. We create a journal, a PCR journal, a peer-reviewed international journal that actually has been growing. Demand more time than we expected, but it's a great thing as well for not only them, but others as well to publish. We keep them active as well if they want to become a teaching assistant. We try to help them with if they want to apply for the programs. And now we create an annual conference. A team and colleagues develop as well a nice master's program. Some of them they go and they continue collaboration in this master's program there in Dresden. And then a very important question is how to increase the reach of the product. That's our goal. So can we reach 1,000, 2,000? Can we, in order to change how they learn and make an impact as well, understand the evidence, and how to measure the long-term impact of the program. With that, thank you very much, and I also look very much forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Felipe, for your wonderful presentation. As a matter of fact, we have a few PPCR graduates here in the audience, so we were looking forward to the discussion later on. Thank you so much for your beautiful presentation, Felipe. Always great to have you, and I look forward to see you soon in person again, as soon as possible. Thank you, Felipe. Thanks, Felipe. Thank you. All right, and now I'll give you the next speaker today, Professor Tracy Wallbrink. Tracy, when we met, when we embarked together at the editorial board of Annals of Medicine just a few months ago, I guess, it became clear that there's a wonderful sort of collaboration. We accomplished many things in a short period of time, and now you're here. You literally crossed an ocean to be with us today, so we really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and we're looking forward to your speech as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Tracy Wallbrink.
Vielen Dank für die freundliche Einladung. Es ist mir eine Ehre und Vergnügen, hier heute vortragen zu dürfen. It's about all of my German, and I'm going to do the rest in English, or we'll be here for a very long time. So thank you again for the invitation. And I'm here to talk a little bit about a program that I started called Open Pediatrics, and the collaboration that we've been able to develop throughout the years. So I'll start here with our main goals. We had 3 overarching goals when we started this program, which was to create a community of practice, to develop really high quality educational resources and share those globally, and then to think about how we could collaborate together to learn the best way to teach and to learn. And so I work at Boston Children's Hospital, and we had a lot of challenges when we started this program, in that We had a lot of great teachers, but we had a lot of people that wanted to come to the hospital to learn, and we weren't able to scale what was inside of the walls very easily. And what we realized is that we weren't alone, that there were a lot of wonderful hospitals that were doing great work that also were having this challenge. And so how do we scale the amazing innovation in clinical, teaching, research, training across the globe to not only share innovations from one hospital to another, but to collaborate together and really bring the best ideas and innovate together? And that was the main reason that we started working with Open Pediatrics. And I have to say that the time that we began this program was in 2007, 2008. So the landscape here was that Facebook had just started in 2004, YouTube in 2005, Twitter in 2006, and the iPhone was just released in 2007. So if you think about the technologies that we were starting with, they were very, very early in infancy. And so we had to think creatively how to use the internet and do online learning. We really wanted to connect the world, and so we came together and thought broadly using this framework. I must admit I wasn't aware of at the time that we started, but the core principles were here, and that we typically think about starting a project and we think, what technology can I use? What do I need to teach? But really what we did was we thought about who we were trying to teach, who we were trying to connect, and we tried to pair the technology with the educational pedagogy with the subject matter that we were trying to bring together. And we were lucky in that we had a lot of partners around the world that were willing to share with us and work together with us. So we started with a needs assessment, and I'm a critical care doctor in pediatrics. So we surveyed our pediatric critical care community and said, how can we help? How can we come together? And so we provided this needs assessment. We figured out what topics we were going to use. We figured out what technologies we were going to use. And we grabbed a group of really engaged and interested innovators that were going to come together and help us to build this community. And we partnered with IBM to begin with, and this was our first platform. It's built on Adobe Air, which allowed us to pass this along on a thumb drive, and it would work whether it was connected to the internet or not. It was a great technology, but as many of you know, Adobe's no longer supporting Flash, and so this is certainly obsolete by now. But it was a really great partnership, and we worked together with them for the first about 10 years to develop multiple platforms and get a lot of our community together. So really, we wanted to embrace the community of practice framework. And the community of practice framework really states that to bring together a community of people that are working together for a shared problem, you're going to bring together novices and experts, and they're going to learn from each other. There are some people that are going to engage more than others, but you want to bring out opportunities for all of these members to come together and learn from each other. And so we wanted to build technology that would support this. So one of our first programs that we did was develop what we called our World Shared Practice Forum. And so we would invite an expert from around the world, and we would interview them. On the left-hand or the right-hand side of the screen here is my mentor, Jeff Burns, interviewing Jacques Lacroix from Canada. And we would film these speakers, and then we would ask the rest of the community around the world to come together on the fourth Tuesday of the month and have a conference in their hospital. And asynchronously join in, watch the video, and share their comments in the sidebar. And you can see here, there's comments from Malaysia, Mexico, Spain, Latvia. We were able to bring the whole community together in a way that we had never done before, really understand how people were practicing medicine in critical care. We would ask questions to the audience, and we would ask them to have a discussion in their hospital, and then post it as a single voice. And we were really excited that we had a lot of groups join us. This is just our first publication. We had the first 28 months that we did this, we had over 18,000 views, and 132 countries joined us. And again, this was back in 2012, 13, 14, so early on, before we were really using Zoom and Skype. And that was really exciting for us to see, and people were reporting that they watched this in communities in their own hospital. And that was great, and you can see here, it was wonderful to see. They would send us pictures of them watching the videos and using them. A lot of really amazing quotes here. Probably one of my favorites is from this clinician in Chile who described that he used to lie awake at nighttime sort of thinking that he wasn't providing the best care to his patients because he was worried he wasn't keeping up to date as he should have been. But when he started joining the World Shared Practice Forums and he was seeing that he was practicing medicine just like the rest of the world, he felt connected to the community and felt really happy that he was providing great care to his patients. So I just thought that that was exactly what we intended to do and such a beautiful example. Now, one of the things that we've all faced with is COVID hit. And when we stopped, and I think there was a great example here of stopping and thinking and not doing the same thing, we had to change our way that we were doing the World Shared Practice Forum. And we decided to move to podcasts only because when we stopped and we looked at our data, we realized people were listening, because this was an interview style format, people were listening to our podcasts and not necessarily watching the videos. And so we've changed our whole methods over the last year to do podcast only, and we've seen kind of an explosion in the growth. So this kind of brings together the whole concept of you've got to keep innovating or else you're going to be stale. And I think podcasts really help to bring out the sense of community. This is a paper that was recently published in Academic Medicine that looked at how residents were using podcasts. And what they're describing is that it helps them to assimilate within a culture of a group of medicine. They sort of learn the shared language. When their senior mentors are sharing podcasts with them, they feel more part of that community. And so we realized that podcasts were a great way to continue to build that. And then we also developed, this is again my mentor here, started the PICU COVID Collaborative when COVID was really exploding around the world. And we were able to get, I think, close to 150 hospitals joining us twice a week to talk about what was happening, what were we seeing. And we had representation from the CDC and the WHO and JAMA. They would join us to sort of learn what was happening around the world and share with us new protocols that were coming down the pipeline so that we could all be best prepared on how to take care of these patients when none of us had any idea of what to do. And so that was really amazing to see. And then when we move into the next sort of realm is part of the whole component of Open Pediatrics was how do we build these high quality resources that will bring people together to collaborate. And so we wanted to share great resources. So we have a team. I've got a team of 16 people right now that are videographers, medical animators and illustrators, video game makers. I don't even know how they do half of the stuff that they do, but they make really great high quality content. And we wanted to build this content that wouldn't just be passive. We wanted to build content that educators could take and curate into their own teaching, either as a flipped classroom model where the students might watch a video ahead of time and then during the daytime they would come in and have an interactive case discussion. Or they may watch this as part of a session where they talk about, all right, this is how it's presented in the video, but this is how it's done in our hospital. And so we wanted to create these resources that educators could use as part of their own teaching to supplement their teaching. And one of the core concepts that's being discussed a lot in medical education literature is the role of the content curator and not creator. And so we felt very lucky to be creating this content with a lot of subject matters from experts from around the world. And one of the ways that we've seen this come out is we have a lot of examples. In the top left is Dr. Pesach from Israel, who came to us early on in our Open Pediatrics days and said, I have a bunch of residents. I don't have the time to create content. I love your stuff. Can you create a customized learning experience for my residents? Which we did. We pulled together all the videos that he wanted and created this learning experience. And he came to visit us as a professor one day, and he went to one of our animators and said, do you know that you saved a little baby's life last week? And my animator, looked up to him and wondered, what had happened. And he said his residents went to the delivery room and was trying to resuscitate a newborn baby. And he couldn't get the baby's chest to rise. And he remembered seeing in the video that there was a valve, a pop-off valve, that he had to flip. And he could deliver higher pressures to the baby. And so he did that, and the baby's lungs filled with air, and the baby started breathing, and all was well. But it was because of a picture, an animation that we didn't think would really impact clinical care. But it's amazing when you think about some of these resources and how they can be utilized to really transform our medicine and our clinical care. Dr. Tolga in the bottom here on the bottom left was a physician in Turkey. And he brought a lot of these videos to his intensive care unit and was able to reduce the infection rates in his hospital. So all the nurses would watch these videos and they were able to decrease their central line infections. And they brought their protocols and printed them out and they would run through their hospital, oh, we've got a new open pediatrics protocol this week. And they would share and sort of develop some of their quality improvement resources. And then one day in our inbox, we got this photo from this the South Korean nursing school. And it turns out that they love what I'll show you next, which is our video games. And they decided to start taking these to the nursing school and having competitions on the weekends for the nursing students to learn how to use dialysis machines and mechanical ventilators. And they asked me if I would create a video for them congratulating the winners because they've had a lot of success. And so you never know how the content is going to be used, but the way that we've been able to develop this to see how our collaborators are taking this and making it their own has been really exciting. And so this is our mechanical ventilation simulator that I mentioned. And earlier I had mentioned our needs assessment. One of the reasons we built this was because we had heard from our community that mechanical ventilation was one of the biggest needs that we had. And I've seen this. I travel to a lot of countries and work in a lot of intensive care units. I've worked in Bangladesh and Cambodia and a lot of places. And what I've seen is as the ICUs open up, this machine is challenging to use because there's no manual that comes along with it. Almost all brand new pediatric ICUs that open up have about 100% mortality rate. So 100% of kids that they put on the ventilator die. And we had a physician come to us from Yemen saying, I need your help. We have a room full of beautiful brand new ventilators that were donated from the European Union, and nobody knows how to use them. And every time we've tried, the patients died, and my nurses and doctors call them the black boxes of death. And we need your help. We need to figure out a way to train people. And we thought, oh, if we create a PDF or a video, no one's going to watch this, so we decided to create a video game. And so we developed this mechanical ventilation simulator, which takes people through the steps of how to use it, takes them through short problems to solve and guides them along the way, and then longer case-based problems. And with that, we've seen some pretty exciting results in terms of how people have used it and how they've been able to learn from this video game in just a short period of time. And I'll share that with you in just a moment. But we've also, as I mentioned, we've got a few dialysis simulators, and we're finishing up an ECMO simulator right now. So people always talk about it's really hard to teach critical thinking skills online. And I think if you create a well-designed experience, you can actually teach really complicated things. I mean, I spent 3 years of my life as an ICU fellow learning how to use this machine, and our residents can spend 5.5 hours and have a pretty good understanding of how not to harm someone and be able to practice. So when COVID hit, we actually took our ventilation simulator, and you can see here, this is an adult patient. I typically don't take care of adults anymore, but we developed COVID content, and we created all the new sort of things from COVID, and we were talking with the adult intensivists as to how to manage these patients. So we developed a bunch of COVID cases, and we had over 100,000 clinicians use this last April. There were a lot of people that were deployed to intensive care units that couldn't remember how to use a ventilator because it was many, many years ago that they had learned it in their training. And so we hope that by being able to scale some of these resources quickly and collaboratively, we're hoping to impact some of the care around the world. And then the other way that we've been able to collaborate is through research partnerships. So one thing we wanted to look at was how does the ventilator or some of these games actually do if we're comparing traditional standards of education. And so we came together and we put out a call through the platform and said, is anybody interested in working with us and studying? And 33 hospitals in 8 countries said, yeah, let's do this. Let's study this. And so we asked residents that were going to rotate through the pediatric intensive care unit for the first time to either use the simulator or go through the rotation. And we measured their knowledge gains. We then looked 2 months later to see how much they learned and how much they retained. And then we flipped it around and we had them do the other thing. And what we found was that residents learned as much in 5.5 hours on the game as they did during an entire month in the ICU. And the residents that used the game ended up learning and retaining more at 2 months. And if the residents use this before their IC rotation, they ended up learning double as compared to if they used it later on. And so what we learned from this is that it's pretty efficient. It imparts really important complex thinking skills, and that this is really crucial to priming. And so we were excited to see how we could collaborate together and really start learning a lot of things about how to teach online. And we've been doing the same thing. This is just an example of another one of our videos. This is for the pediatric medical students. And we've just finished a study with 7 medical schools looking at if we vary how medical schools receive videos, if it's mandatory versus optional, if you're given protected time or not. And we were kind of excited to see that a lot of people say you should really give protected time to residents, and if we did, actually they did more videos. They didn't do them during the daytime, they did them in the middle of the night, but they did them and they learned more, which is really, really cool. So those are just a couple of examples of a lot of the research collaborations that we've been working on. This is our website. Anyone's able to access this. It's totally free. That was part of our major tenets, is that we wanted to provide all of this material for free to the world because we don't think information should be bottlenecked and should be shared as broadly as possible. We have had a lot of people working on this platform. This is just as many names as I could remember over the past years of people that had worked with us in the hospital, and super excited to be here and talking with you about innovations and thinking about how to move our field forward. So anyone's feel free to email me at any point. So thank you all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tracy, for that inspiring speech. And it was fascinating to learn about the video game approach as well. We have another speaker a little later, Professor Miro, who also works with robotic technology in surgery. And he showed me pictures. It also looked a bit like a video game. And I think it's fascinating how much you can enhance the learning experience with these easy measures, actually. And thank you so much, Tracy, for your wonderful speech. And now I have the pleasure and the honor to say a few words about our reformed medical degree program, MEDIC, as well. So MEDIC is really a new medical school by Dresden University of Technology in Chemnitz. And when I came into that project in 2019, and then together with my partners, Thomas Noll and Lutz Miro, a little later, at this time, Professor Albrecht has already paved the way. So it was his idea to put an innovative medical school into a region in southern Saxony that's surrounded by a region that has limited access to healthcare. So basically bringing doctors to the countryside by educating them on site, but in an innovative fashion. So when we came into the project, we quickly assembled a team to design a program that brings doctors to the countryside, but also reinvents partially, medical education curriculum in general. And then within 2 years' time, we were able to design a curriculum to open a new medical campus at the hospital in Chemnitz, and also to enroll 100 medical students to that program. And we also opened a branch institute of our University Center for Evidence-Based Healthcare, and also a side center, of course, of the Principles and Practice of Clinical Research course in Chemnitz. And, the MEDIC, the entire program, the project is supported by the German Ministry of Health and by the Free State of Saxony. And it's kind of a unique thing because it's the only German bi-campus medical school that receives both federal, and state administration support. And the reason for that is, so we went to the ministry, we talked to the people, and the reason basically why they funded the idea is because, people believed in some aspects of the new way to educate students in that particular region. So one thing that we did is we changed, we restructured the traditional medical school curriculum by dissolving the borders between subjects. So instead of internal medicine or physiology, the students would learn biological systems, such as the nervous system or the cardiovascular system. And to that, we added longitudinal path, where Seminars and lectures are being held over the entire span of the 6-year program on additional content, such as value-based healthcare, digital health, healthcare economics, and these additional subjects. So what we tried to accomplish there with that curriculum is basically to design a collaborative curriculum where preclinical scientists and clinicians, epidemiologists are working together, as a team. And so this was basically what happened then is that the curriculum followed this idea. But how do we convey all those skills, this kind of knowledge to the students? So 2 things that we are incorporating are collaborative and digital learning techniques early in the curriculum. And the other thing is that in the first semesters, we allocate, the students are being matched with mentors, both in a clinical and a scientific track, to receive individual guidance in clinical aspect, but also in science over the entire span of the program. And those features, the blended curriculum, the intensive mentoring, the focus on digital health and evidence-based healthcare, they made or are making Chemnitz a special place for our students and for our teachers as well. So 100 students are attending, medical students are going to their classes, going to their courses each day. Then we had the corona situation and moved many things to the digital space as well. But seeing then those 100 students all together at the opening ceremony of Medical Campus Chemnitz 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was really a special moment, really inspiring. And to break it down, why can such a concept be successful? I guess there are 4 key factors that really play a role here. The first one is you need a strong vision, basically a vision that's strong enough to assemble people behind that vision, push it forward. You need a strong collaboration to get people to work together across geographic distances, across professions. You also need great mentors who pave the way, who are always getting you back. And then, of course, you need a great team that shares your mission. I have to say, after the time I've been working with the project, is that at Medic we are blessed with those 4 things. So I'm really proud to be allowed to take part into a development that might change healthcare in Southern Saxony and might also change a little bit the way we look at medical school programs and medical school curriculums. Thank you very much. Right, and now I'm very pleased to give the word to our next speaker, Professor Lutz Miro, my partner in the management, together with Thomas Noll of the MEDIC project, my partner in crime. And we are looking forward to your speech. Lutz, take it away.
I think I should do that without a microphone. No? I think this. But without glasses, yes, it's much easier for me. Thank you, Timo, for this warm introduction. It's an exciting day for me. You know that, Timo, 2 reasons. First reason is to speak to the same audience with all these scientific legends. It's a big honor for me. Thank you for that. The second is Tracy. Your German is much better than my English. And that's why I'm a little bit excited. Some of these languages over there are most familiar to me. For instance, Russian. Dobro požalovat. Welcome. Yes, to speak about the campus development, it sounds so easy. And believe me, please, most of my hairs turned to gray in the last 2 years. Yes, what was the task? We had the task, the political task, to keep a lot of students in the area of Chemnitz. Timo talked about the problems of this region, and that's why we have this task from government. We developed a model course of human medicine in the cooperation with the Technical University of Dresden. And the study location should be Chemnitz, the new medical campus. This is extremely challenging, and that's why I will bring you in the next few minutes a little bit back to reality, for instance. Okay, the two campus model is demanding, I talked about, and the students are students of the Technical University in Dresden. If you come to Chemnitz as a student, you get 100 euros for living there from the city of Chemnitz, but not if you're a student of the Technical University of Dresden. And that's why I called the governor of the city, and I told him the problem, and yes, he says, okay, the students from Dresden will get the money too. It's not so easy. We had an extremely short timeline. Timo talked about that. From the idea to the first students in Chemnitz, we had only 5 years. That's very fast, it's very demanding. Last year we started with the first course, and this year in the fall we had the second generation of students there. We are very proud to have these students in Chemnitz. There are some special features of the medic studies. Timo talked about this. We have the early linkage of preclinical and clinical education. That's very new. We had longitudinal subjects and fields of competence. We have interprofessionalism. Nurses and students are working together in these medic studies. The students should be involved very early in the patient care, and we need the use of digital things and teaching formats. Yes. There are some success factors. We need more doctors in the region, I said, and we had a high political support. And that's why we created this project together with the Technical University of Dresden. We had a clear plan. These success factors Timo also mentioned. We have clear tasks, clear content, deadlines, responsibilities, and milestones. And the project organization, we had a chart and equal staffing decision-making positions. We have a professional management of this project. It's very important to have clear tasks, clear communication. We had important stakeholders, and we planned the regular exchange of information. I will go to my laptop. It's much easier for me. We have a clear assignment of tasks, I said, and we have cross-campus document storage. This was not easy at the beginning of the project. We have different types of documents and two campuses, two locations, and we have to bring these documents together. It was very, very demanding. Our partners were informed about the current project status. We have meetings in regular time distances. And yes, the aim is to have an attractive regional network to strengthen the Chemnitz Medical Campus. The contact with the stakeholders is a success factor, and we had our own funding structure to develop. Possibly we have some examples in Dresden, and we should develop the internal structures of these two campus model further. The focus at the moment is the infrastructure at the medical campus Chemnitz. We need further development of this infrastructure. We have to digitalize this campus. We have to develop research facilities and science networks. We have to teach the teachers at the moment. We have to implement a teaching practice network. We have to qualify the teachers, and we have to support the new students at the moment. The campus development needs new structures in the construction. We have to plan new rooms, internship rooms. This is a maximal medical supply. It's the 5th biggest hospital in Germany, and we have no adequate facilities to teach the students at the moment, and we have to develop this. Now we have some interim solutions. The capacities are not sufficient at full load, and so we need possibly a new campus building project. Currently, we have planned with 250 students, and in the future, we need possibly a higher rate of students. We have to describe the sub-projects for structural implementation. We need lecture halls, internship areas. We need a dean's office possibly, and equal university administration. We need research areas and also the definition of qualities for these areas. It's a very demanding task we have at the moment, and we have to digitalize the location I talked about. We have to connect the internet to the German research network. We have to expand the technical base at the moment. And we need classrooms with a new standard equipment, and also the development of learning platforms. We have opened a new skills lab with all the facilities we need for the students to teach them very early, to let them know the modern medicine. And we have also to develop our personnel. In the next years, the lecturers from our hospital will, to have more to do, and that's why we have to the conditions for them under the German labor law. We have to respect these conditions and to qualify these people. The personal development we have on the roof of the medical faculty of Dresden. We need the so-called academization of the medicine campus of Chemnitz. The people should reach academic degrees at the technical university. We have to promote scientific activities. We have to support with publications and third-party foundings. We need mentoring, we need networking, and we need the acquisition of scientific achievements. What we have done so far, we have implemented the scientific mentoring. We have a professorship for health services with a research focus on transfer. We have the first research funds were raised. We have implemented the PPCR program at the site center in Chemnitz. I'm very proud that the first 8 students are past this program at the moment. And we have a timeline for the next 10 years. We have the definition of milestones, and we will be able to develop the medical campus to a high potential medical school in the future if we do that together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lutz, and it's always great working with you. And I don't know why you keep telling me that you're nervous when the speech is in English, because then you deliver a great speech. But thank you so much. And I also thank you, Thomas. So it's really has been the 3 of us, spearheading that project over the past 2 years. Has been great working with you. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. And now we have time for our discussion round. So I would like to ask to come down Professor Albrecht, Professor Reichmann, Tom and Tracy, and then we have also Marius Distler. Is he here? All right, excellent. Great. All right, so just come down, folks, and we make ourselves comfortable. That's fantastic. Right, so I'd like to introduce Professor Diesler from the surgery department of Dresden, also a very experienced and successful educator who will also add his perspective to our round. So have a seat, guys. Wherever you want. That's more comfortable. Yep. All right, guys. And then, Felipe, great that you're still with us as well. So I assembled a few questions to you guys, and we also have the opportunity for many questions from the audience for an active discussion. And feel free to post your questions in German if that's more comfortable, and I will translate into English as well. But let's start with a question to Professor Albrecht and Professor Aritz. So we talked a lot about MEDIC, but yet going back to the times of Harvard International. So when you two decided to team up to reinvent medical education in Dresden, develop a new faculty program as partners in Boston and Dresden 2 decades ago with an ocean in between, what were really the major challenges and how did you overcome them?
Will you begin, Tom, or me?
Okay. Well, there's an old saying that culture eats process for lunch any day. So, and that's typically what the issue is. I think the typical issue with developing programs elsewhere or in a collaboration with others is creating a common culture. And that was probably our initial challenge. And that doesn't mean that the culture that you're working with is not as good. It's just that you have to, the two people have to, as I mentioned in my talk, really agree that they have common goals and focus on those common goals. And you have to focus on how you can best create a new way of working together that allows you to get there. And that to me is one of the major challenges, because in order to be sustainable in any change process, there has to be a cultural shift. Otherwise, you can just not sustain any change process. So that I think is always the challenge, but that takes time. And when I worked with Munich, Professor Putz, who I worked with at the time, he told me after 7 years that we managed to change the culture. So you have to take a long-term view. You can't expect things to happen overnight. So that's the important aspect, I think, of any project like that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. And I guess the same applies for projects such as MEDIC, and Lutz talked about it. It really takes time and endurance, right, to push that vision forward.
Yeah, that's quite correct, and that makes me really nearly happy, that things always happen again in the same manner. What the problems are, and Miro just showed that here. This could be the list we had 96 over here in Dresden, because it was the same situation where we had to do the same thing. Not to change a culture, even to get a culture into this new faculty, because and that's the thing we want to tell our friends in Chemnitz. This will not come from alone. You should not think that there will develop a culture of a medical faculty within Chemnitz from itself. You have to do something for that. You have to show what should this culture be, and you should talk to people. You should share your vision, and then you have to train the people with that. You showed that problem, and Tom, you remember that the teacher program was one of the main topics when we started over here in Dresden. Of course, everyone thought, and me included, we could do that, but we couldn't, because we not even recognized what really was the problem. So at that point, we didn't think it should be or could be so successful as it was at the end. So puts absolutely right, because it costs a lot of time. Don't think you write a paper and then a week later you have managed that. Educational change program, cultural change programs are costing a lot of time. And you, once you want to see the result, there's 5 years nothing. So at the moment, our faculty has developed, once you have the critical mass, it is working at its own visions and goals, of course. But even now we have periods where there happens nothing for about 5 years or longer. So you can get a new impact on the system. And so for Dresden, and the problem, or not the problem, the goal with the Chemnitz protocol is not to only get an impact to Chemnitz, but to get a new impact for our own faculty, because our own faculty is becoming a new type of faculty. So as Tom, you've been in the early 90s in Harvard when you decided to go outside. You developed for your own. You were in the contest with with Johns Hopkins, whatever, over there, and then you decided to bring it outside to other countries, to other cities. That's the point I think we are here in Dresden, not in that altitude, but it should give us the impact and the impression, and it will help our own faculty to be a better one afterwards. Huh?
Yeah, I completely agree, and you can feel certain impulses right away, but it takes energy, I guess. So, Professor Reichmann, you've been an extremely successful dean, but when we have met, I knew you in your position as my boss at the neurology department, and you're also an excellent boss at neurology. But how can you, I imagine it's not easy to live in both worlds for a period of 16 years and still being able to transform the medical faculty to to promote innovation. So my two questions to you are, how did you manage to do that? And what will our faculty in Dresden look like 10 years from now?
Well, maybe you need two things. You need a very favorite wife, family, and you need an excellent team. So I had, at the beginning, several people here in the faculty who were very skeptic about our vision and what to do, and I always incorporated them. So I brought them to the dean's desk and to our group that makes the final decisions, so they were incorporated. And so from a skepticist, they became a very favorable person for our vision. And I think that was a good strategy. Also, we had the good luck that we were maybe number 36 in Germany. So we always climbed up the ladder. And that gives you a good spirit, that's great motivation. Now it's much more difficult. Now, when I started as the research dean, we had about 5 million euros per year. Now we have 60. So now people think maybe next year we should have 70 million third-party funding. So it becomes more and more difficult. Mm-hmm. Also, as mentioned by Professor Albrecht, you get a little bit lazy maybe. And so what we created is a year of research, a year of lecturing. And during these periods, we always looked out for new ideas. And so it was never boring. It was always challenging. And then the most challenging thing for me, which is the only reason for sometimes sleepless nights, is the money. Because we are not in a rich country here. And so I'm extremely grateful to the colleagues in the faculty that they understand that we cannot raise a skyscraper full with 3S laboratories. We have to go step by step. And I feel such an understanding here. But our colleagues can also rely on us that we do our utmost to bring in more money. and with having appointed excellent people, and this is the third column of success, we can do it together. So to me, it was a real joy, this 16 years, but now it's even more joyful to step aside.
Thank you so much, Professor Reichmann. And then talking about that collaborative spirit that you mentioned, I remember, Felipe, I don't know if you remember, but maybe 9 or 10 years ago, you came to Dresden, and we had a meeting with Professor Albrecht and Professor Reichmann. And I guess you felt some sort of that spirit, right, to try something new. And when you rebooted earlier, I started to tell the story that I was a first or second year resident this time, and it's unthinkable in most places to get an appointment with the CEO and the dean of your medical school. Try that somewhere else, you know, and we had this appointment like in 1 day time. Felipe and I, we were sitting with you guys discussing the PPCR course. So Felipe, in terms of, so what would be, you know, you heard about the medic program, the new site in Chemnitz. What would be your advice for the future of our faculty and also the medical campus in Chemnitz?
So, great comments. And indeed, yes, I think you remember a nice story, and I have to tell, it was very warm and receptive. Our conversation at that point when we met Professor Reichmann. So it was great. And actually, I did remember as well. Seeing by distance, I do remember well as well. Our nice meeting that we had about 10 years ago, and the other visits I had as well there. So and Timo, you know, there's one thing that's very interesting because and that's why I think it's a powerful collaboration. So a lot of departments, and I speak with a lot of departments in different countries. You know, some departments, you know, it doesn't matter the country. You know, I go some departments in Brazil. They say, look, I don't need you guys coming here. Collaboration. They maybe they don't know as well, but they think, no, look, we can do everything in-house. They can certainly do, but that's not the point, and that's exactly the point of this conversation here. So, you know, all the departments can do in-house. So the point is not teaching a t-test or teaching a novel, teaching a multiple regression. You have very qualified faculty in any university, sometimes better than you know, in a number of times better than faculty here. So that's not the point. The point is the collaboration. The point is creating this network because, as you know, Timo, so a lot of things happen because of that. So then you started the collaboration, the masters in clinical research there. A number of people went there. They may have moved to Germany as well to continue their PhD studies. They started collaboration new projects as well. So, and I think that's the powerful collaboration. I know if we work as a team, we can do much more. I know it's obvious, but this in a way obvious vision. It's not what I find commonly when I talk to other colleagues. And again, I don't go knock on the door, but when I talk to some of them, they say, look, we don't need it, but we all need collaboration. It doesn't matter. So I think that's and if you think about the future, I think that's, you know, Timo, as we get more global, as technologies improve with this connectivity, I do think you are very well positioned for that. And just the topic of this conversation and the support as well that I've seen from Dresden University, Chemnitz now, for programs like these, I think that just speaks for the potential and the future. I don't think, you know, I see as knowledge being much more diffused than concentrated, and hopefully we can make that happen. And I think that's one of my last thing I'll say. Sorry for taking too long, but the last thing I will say, so I think the great thing of this program is trying to decrease, not in Germany, but in other countries like South America, you have a big inequality gap as well. So, and we can all work together on trying to decrease this inequality gap. So, because they can be exposed to, I know that the students in South America, they really enjoy interacting with the students in Dresden and vice versa. So I do think this, it's obvious, but that's how the value and the richness of this program will be in the future. Anyway, so but yes, I think it's great what you were doing there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Felipe. And so one thing that came to my mind is that, this world of collaboration between institutions, global collaborations, academic achievements, academization of a new campus. I mean, it can be quite overwhelming, I guess. So, Tracy, you're young, you're successful, you're in one of the most prestigious universities around the globe. What would be your advice to someone, a young resident from Chemnitz Hospital who wants to be just like you?
That's a great question. I would say, it's not always easy. When I thought about Open Pediatrics, I went to my mentor, who has been a wonderful mentor, but I had to go back to him 3 times. The first time he told me, that's not what an ICU doctor does, go think of something else. I came back a second time and a third time, and then he was fully supportive, fully on board. And so I think, thinking about what you want to do and standing behind it, even if people say, maybe not. But if you're really convinced to stay true, and then find a wonderful group. I mean, I've been incredibly fortunate to have wonderful mentors, wonderful partners, and people that believed in me and were able to sort of give me the resources I need. And I think, one of the things I've learned a lot from Tom and Liz Armstrong is, really thinking about the science and the pedagogy and why you're doing what you're doing. And if you do something really well, success will come. And so I think, don't take no for an answer, and stay true and work really hard. And I think, there's a lot of success that's out there.
Yeah, that's also an excellent take-home message. So don't take no for an answer. Completely agree. So that's kind of our motto, right? That's cool. Mario, so let me switch the gears a little bit, and let's talk about education in a field where it's not easy, because you're a full-time surgeon. So being in the operating suite all day and then still finding the spirit to educate students must be difficult. I can imagine you would advocate for a practical hands-on approach in education, yes. But we're connecting hospitals like Chemnitz, yes, and Dresden, and so in a world that undergoes some sort of digital transformation, bringing with programs like the PPCR hospitals together. So what's your perspective? What's your take on the future education of young surgeons in that world?
Yes, Timo. As you said, so I think it's eminent, or it's collaboration is an integral component of teaching and learning. So I think hands-on or working together is the best way to get better, especially in surgery. And also to get the spirit and to make the experience what it means to be a surgeon, and to have role models and so on and so on. But as you say, if we want to work together with collaborations over the ocean, or not over the ocean, but some kilometers away in Chemnitz, so we have to use modern techniques. And of course, today it's no problem to take videos during the operations and to transfer them into a lecture room or into another OR. And we also, together with Mark, we have already done it. But but the experience to work together or to get close together personally from my point of view, is also it's very important. So I would be happy if we have a chance to get together with Lutz Miro and make exchange programs, work together in Chemnitz or in our department. So surgery is mostly about experience and a little bit adventure.
Wonderful. Mostly about experience and a little bit adventure. That's also another great take-home message. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's we should also involve our great audience. So guys, feel free to ask us any questions. Please.
Well, I'll take the mask off.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank you for organizing this symposium. And as a student of this faculty, it has been truly inspiring to see all the potential collaborations and the things that can be achieved within the field of medical education. And what I think, what the medical education in Chemnitz does really well, and which is also part of why politics were so interested in funding it, is because it provides a unique answer to the lack of medical supply within the region of Chemnitz, and it's a great alternative to just paying people money, because where you study is a great predictor for where you're going to work. So it's a good idea to educate the people within that area to solve those issues. However, the concept of dissolving subjects and having longitudinal curriculums are not as novel in Germany, because many different faculties do that, and they do it well. And as a matter of fact, with the new Approbationsordnung, the new Medical Licensure Act, we all will have to adapt to that, and we all have to dissolve the borders. And I think Professor Albrecht put that really well, that when he said you have to develop or you'll eventually die. And the DPOL thing, established in 1999, not that I can talk about it from personal experience, because I was 4 years old at that time. Really
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, but I can remember.
It put Dresden on the map, and on the map within Germany, in the field of medical education, but also European-wide and internationally. And now listening to the talk of Professor Frickney and to your talk, Professor Wallbrink, it was really inspiring to see what is possible within the field of medical education in the domains of collaborative learning, in the fields of open education and of gamification. So I was wondering, maybe Professor Reichmann, Professor Albrecht, where do you see potential opportunities for collaborations, or at least adapting those concepts to not establish Dresden and the Faculty of Medicine in Dresden as an excellent primary care provider within the field of healthcare, not only as an excellent scientific place, a place where great science is being done, but also where great medical education is performed, and where we can set ourselves apart from other places in Germany. That, because when we talk about medical education in Germany, the first places that come to mind are Munich, or Heidelberg, or maybe Berlin, or Hamburg. But nobody talks of Dresden anymore. They talk of Dresden because of science and because of great healthcare. So where do you see opportunities where we can maybe adapt or collaborate, potentially with Harvard Medical School, to move Dresden forward and put us on the map again in terms of medical education?
I like you, really. This is the kind of spirit we need. Eh? Where are you working at the moment?
Well, I'm a fifth-year medical student,
Yeah.
still thinking where I'm going to do my residency.
Yeah, this is excellent. Yeah, you are the guys who are making the program, because as you told, the old DPOL program, yeah, it's a thing for the history books. Yeah, so it's gone. Everyone does it. There's nothing new with it or innovation with that. It was at that time, and this was where we had the profit from that. Our faculty, our city, our university hospital. And now that was one of the motivations to start a new program, which fits to the problems of that time, not of the problems in the 19th. It's different problems at the moment. This was to have this two-campus model. This was the motivation to make a provider network where the center of the network is our university hospital or the Klinikum Chemnitz. That's the pure motivation with that. And what we need is to bring that idea to the new people within the system, the new physicians, the new people working within the hospitals, and then to make a high motivation to take this culture into the region, which is really difficult. It's the same difficulty we had in the 90s, because everyone said, who is UKD? Who is the medical faculty of Dresden? So at the moment, and that's why we need people like you, is to get this motivation, to burn for that idea, and to bring it into the provider situation. You are one of the physicians working in Dresden or in Chemnitz or whatever, or should work with another hospital within the region, and to make it better for the patients there, because it's not so good as we want to have it at the moment, to be quite sure. And the problem is, we should not talk around that problem all the time. Here sitting one of our best surgeons within our hospital, and there's the best surgeon from the Chemnitz hospital. And they tell us they want to work together and to be cooperative and collaborate, of course, but they have a competition within our system. They have a competition within the region, and it's not as easy as we think about it at the moment, and therefore we need a new generation of physicians coming into the systems. That are you. And you. And we want to bring this spirit into your brain just from the beginning. And that's, I think, the profit at the end from this two-campus model. And what we can learn from the Boston regions and from our partners there, they had this decision made 25 years ago. I've been there when the Boston region started, when the Brickhams and Mass General, they were on competition. They still are on that. But they learned how to work together within a region, how to share the task of providing healthcare to the people. That's what we can install and what we want to install. And all what we need is people as you. So really, you're invited. Come on.
So to address your direct question, I think one of the problems is physicians. We are the results of a medieval guild system. Okay, you have a medieval profession working in institutions of the 19th century. Okay, let's be very clear. Hospitals are institutions of the 19th century. We were trained to be in a cottage industry, one-on-one. Here is my practice. Here is the patient. Patient comes to me. Thank you very much. We have never, ever thought about ourselves as part of a system that is charged to take care of a population and to take care of patients, okay? So we have basically been solo practitioners, okay? And if I would say that the one thing that has to change is how we view ourselves as a profession, right? And how we view ourselves in connection to other professions, other healthcare professions, and not just healthcare professions, social workers, politicians, etc. Virchow, I think, once said that, medicine is a social science and politics is nothing but medicine on a large scale. Okay, so and he was a member of the Prussian Parliament. So I think it's important to understand that we cannot exist in isolation. We have to literally link into society if we are going to change anything dramatically. And I think that's a major culture shift. That's a major redirection of how we view ourselves, as a profession. So that to me is a challenge.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on your job offer. Yeah, I like you too.
Come on, next money.
We definitely close a deal today. Thank you so much for that brilliant question. Any further questions from the audience? All right, let's see if there's any further question in the chat, Mark. Okay, fantastic. So, of course, we couldn't let our guests go without bringing a little gift.
Oh, you got to kidding me.
Oh no, it's just a little something. Can somebody bring the?
Oh, my leg line.
Okay. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. So thank you so much, Tom and Tracy, for being with us today. And this is some flowers, and this is basically the Dresden Medical Faculty Medal of Honor. That's for you. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for coming to Dresden.
Thank you.
So Tom, this is for you, the Medal of Honor and some flowers.
Ja.
Thank you so much for coming to Dresden.
Ja, vielen herzlichen Dank. Ne?
Sehr gerne, ja, gern geschehen. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Felipe. We will ship you your medal to Boston, and we may either send you some plastic flowers or no flowers at all, because
FTD.
yeah, FTD. That's but.
Timo.
That's fantastic. Come in person, and then we give you the medal and some fresh flowers. So thank you so much, Felipe. Thank you so much to our speakers, our faculty host, Professor Reichmann, Professor Albrecht. Thank you so much, Marius. Thank you so much, Professor Lutz Miro. And thanks to everyone in the audience, everyone who's connected through video conference. I think it has been a fantastic symposium. We talked about many aspects of collaboration, you know, in education, in pediatrics, in the faculty business, in science, and also in faculty and campus development. So yeah, I think it was a lovely symposium. Thank you so much. We do have a little reception outside the door, so see you there with a few drinks and refreshments. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.